What message was GTA San Andreas truly giving players? Let's dive in. Released in 2004 by Rockstar Games, Grand Theft Auto. San Andreas is often remembered for its vast open world, controversial gameplay, and unforgettable characters. However, beneath its surface as a crime-driven sandbox lies a layered narrative that explores themes of identity, loyalty, systemic corruption, and the struggle for power in a fractured society. Through the journey of Carl Johnson, CJ, the game presents not just a rise to power, but a deeper reflection on survival, belonging, and moral compromise. Returning home, the search for identity. At the heart of San Andreas lies CJ's return to Los Santos following the death of his mother. This moment serves as more than just a narrative trigger. It symbolizes a confrontation with the past. CJ left his neighborhood years ago in search of a better life, distancing himself from gang culture and violence. Yet, upon his return, he finds that nothing has truly changed. His home is still consumed by gang conflicts, economic hardship, and internal betrayal. CJ's journey becomes one of identity reconstruction. Is he the same person who left Grove Street, or has he evolved beyond it? The game constantly challenges him and the player to reconcile these two identities. This tension reflects a broader human experience, the difficulty of escaping one's origins while still feeling bound by them. Loyalty and betrayal, the fragility of brotherhood. One of the most powerful narrative threads in San Andreas is its exploration of loyalty. The Grove Street families, once a strong and united gang, are now fractured and weakened. CJ's brother, Sweet, represents unwavering loyalty to the gang and its traditions. He believes in reclaiming Grove Street's former glory, even if it means clinging to outdated ideals. In contrast, characters like Big Smoke and Ryder embody betrayal. Their decisions to align with rival gangs and corrupt authorities reveal the fragile nature of loyalty in an environment driven by survival. Their betrayal is not merely personal. It reflects a systemic issue where individuals are forced to choose between loyalty and self-preservation. The game suggests that loyalty, while noble, is often unsustainable in a world shaped by inequality and corruption. Trust becomes a luxury that few can afford. Power and corruption, a rigged system. As CJ progresses through the story, he encounters not only rival gangs, but also deeply corrupt institutions. Law enforcement figures, most notably Officer Tenpenny, manipulate CJ into carrying out illegal activities under threat and coercion. This dynamic highlights a central theme of the game. Power is rarely just, and those who hold it often exploit it. The portrayal of corrupt authorities reflects real-world anxieties about systemic injustice. CJ is not simply fighting against criminals. He is navigating a system where the lines between law and crime are blurred. This creates a moral gray zone in which CJ must operate, raising questions about agency and accountability. Is CJ truly in control of his destiny, or is he merely a pawn in a larger game of power? The American Dream Reimagined. San Andreas can also be interpreted as a critique of the American dream. CJ's journey from a struggling gang member to a wealthy and influential figure mirrors the classic narrative of upward mobility. However, the means by which he achieves this success, crime, manipulation, and violence, challenge the legitimacy of that dream. The game presents a world where traditional pathways to success are inaccessible, forcing individuals to seek alternative routes. CJ's rise is not a celebration of success, but a commentary on the lack of opportunities available to marginalized communities. In this sense, San Andreas redefines the American dream as something distorted, achievable, but at a significant moral cost. Environment as a narrative tool. The state of San Andreas itself plays a crucial role in storytelling. From the urban chaos of Los Santos to the rural isolation of the countryside and the excess of Las Venturas, each region reflects different aspects of society. Los Santos represents systemic inequality and gang violence. The countryside symbolizes escape and introspection, a place where CJ can temporarily distance himself from the pressures of urban life. Las Venturas, with its casinos and wealth, embodies excess, greed, and the illusion of control. These environments are not just backdrops. They actively shape CJ's journey and reinforce the game's themes: personal growth and transformation. Throughout the game, CJ undergoes significant personal growth. He evolves from a reluctant participant in gang life to a strategic thinker capable of navigating complex power structures. This transformation is reflected not only in the narrative but also in gameplay mechanics, such as skill development and character customization. CJ's growth, however, is not purely positive. As he gains power, he also becomes more entangled in the very systems he once sought to escape. This duality highlights a central tension. Can one truly rise above their circumstances without becoming part of the problem? Family versus ambition. A recurring conflict in San Andreas is the tension between family loyalty and personal ambition. Sweet represents the importance of staying true to one's roots, while CJ increasingly pursues opportunities beyond Grove Street. This conflict raises an important question. Is success defined by personal achievement or by loyalty to one's community? The game does not provide a clear answer, instead presenting both perspectives as valid yet incomplete. Masculinity, respect, and street reputation. Another critical layer within San Andreas is its portrayal of masculinity and the constant pursuit of respect. In CJ's world, respect is not merely a social value, it is a currency. Characters measure their worth through dominance, physical strength, loyalty, and influence within their environment. This creates a hyper-competitive atmosphere where vulnerability is often suppressed and emotional expression is seen as weakness. CJ himself embodies a more nuanced version of masculinity. Unlike many of his peers, he questions violence, shows empathy, and at times hesitates before making morally questionable decisions. This contrast makes him a compelling protagonist, as he exists between two worlds. One that demands toughness at all costs, and another that allows for reflection and growth. His internal conflict reflects a broader commentary on how societal expectations shape male identity, particularly in marginalized communities where survival often depends on projecting strength. The role of choice and illusion of freedom. While San Andreas is celebrated for its open-world freedom, the narrative subtly suggests that true freedom is limited. Players are given the illusion of choice, deciding how to approach missions, how to customize CJ, or how to explore the world. However, the overarching storyline remains largely fixed, guiding CJ toward inevitable confrontations and outcomes. This design mirrors real-life constraints. Individuals may feel in control of their decisions, yet their choices are often shaped by external pressures such as environment, economic conditions, and social expectations. CJ's path is influenced by his past, his family, and the systemic forces around him. Even when he attempts to break free, he is repeatedly pulled back into the cycle of crime and conflict. The game therefore raises an important philosophical question. How much of our lives are truly within our control? Friendship, trust, and isolation. Beyond family and gang loyalty, San Andreas also explores the fragile nature of friendship. Throughout his journey, CJ forms alliances with various characters, from business partners to fellow criminals. Yet, these relationships are often transactional, built on mutual benefit rather than genuine trust. Moments of isolation are frequent in CJ's story. Despite being surrounded by people, he often stands alone when making critical decisions. This isolation reinforces the idea that leadership and power come at a cost. The more CJ rises, the fewer people he can truly rely on. This theme resonates deeply with players, as it reflects a universal experience. The difficulty of maintaining authentic relationships in a world driven by ambition and self-interest. Crime is a cycle. Can CJ ever truly escape? One final perspective that deepens the narrative of San Andreas is the idea of crime as a self-perpetuating cycle. From the beginning of the story, CJ expresses a desire to leave behind the chaos of gang life. He returns home reluctantly, pulled back not by ambition but by obligation, his mother's death and his family ties. However, as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that escaping this cycle is far more complex than simply choosing a different path. Every attempt CJ makes to distance himself from crime ultimately leads him deeper into it. Whether working with corrupt officials, engaging in high-stakes heists, or expanding his influence across cities, His actions reinforce the very system he once seemed to reject. This highlights a powerful reality. In environments shaped by limited opportunities, crime often becomes less of a choice and more of an inevitability. The game subtly questions whether CJ's rise is truly a form of liberation or just a transformation within the same system. He gains power, wealth, and control, but at what cost? The further he progresses, the more he becomes entangled in the structures of violence and corruption that defined his starting point. In this sense, San Andreas presents a sobering message. Escaping one's circumstances is not always about leaving physically, but about breaking patterns that are deeply embedded in both the individual and the society around them. CJ's journey suggests that while change is possible, it requires more than ambition. It demands a complete redefinition of identity, values, and purpose. Conclusion: a story beyond crime. Expanding beyond its surface narrative, San Andreas ultimately presents a complex portrait of human struggle. It is a story about navigating identity, confronting systemic barriers, and making difficult choices in an imperfect world. CJ's journey is not defined solely by his actions, but by the context in which those actions occur. By combining personal storytelling with broader social commentary, the game achieves a rare balance. It entertains while also provoking thought, encouraging players to question not only CJ's decisions, but also the structures that shape them. In doing so, San Andreas remains one of the most narratively rich and thematically relevant games of its time. If you enjoyed this and want more deep dives like this, be sure to subscribe to Retro Game Stories.